What up, it's your boy Roy Jones Jr. and you're watching Lights Out.
This is Faisal Khan for Lights Out, proudly sponsored by Spartans Law, and this is podcast 57 of the Lights Out Boxing Podcast. Delighted to be joined by my main man, the MVP of Lights Out, Mohsin Gulsher, the face of Lights Out.
I am Lights Out.
You are Lights Out. Turn the lights off. Mohsin Gulsher, aka Ron, how you doing, bud? You alright?
Good.
Everything okay?
Looking forward to this pod.
I definitely am looking forward to this pod.
Let's do it.
Before we get started, do you know what, Ron? Go on, you've done this long enough. What did the viewers that they need to do if they haven't already?
Like, subscribe, share. The details are at the bottom of this video here.
Yeah, and if you want to check us out on all the social media platforms, details are below in the description. Hit that bell for future Lights Out notifications. If you want to listen to this podcast on any
Where can they
audio
listen
platforms,
to this podcast?
Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, everywhere.
So there's no excuses.
There's no excuses whatsoever, guys. If you want to listen to this podcast on the way to work or whilst you're in bed and you can't sleep and you need something to listen to just to keep you entertained, everything is there below in the description. But most important of all, do not forget to hit that bell for future Lights Out notifications. We've got some big things coming up in the next few weeks. We're going to be covering Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall in the all big undisputed super middleweight championship clash at the O2 Arena. We're going to be hopefully be there for Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. We've got big things coming up. So guys, if you want to check out the future content, make sure you hit that bell notification. And of course, make sure you've subscribed to the channel. We're here for the big one today. Usyk versus Joshua 2 fight week is finally here. It is the big one. It is for the Unified and Ring Magazine Heavyweight Championship of the world.
Extra insensitive with winning this now.
It's make or break, baby. This is it for Anthony Joshua. Let's just dive straight into this. Anthony Joshua. Is it game over if he doesn't leave Saudi Arabia with those belts on Saturday night?
Are we starting off with this question?
Yeah, I'm throwing you into a deep end, mate.
Bloody hell. Well, he signed a massive deal with DAZN, so there's...
Contracts don't mean anything, Ron.
No, just... The intention is there for him to continue regardless of win, lose or draw from this fight. It's a massive contract that he signed. But let's just answer that question. What does it mean if he was to taste defeat again and in exactly the same manner?
3 defeats in the last 5 fights as well.
Yeah. It's very difficult to see where... there's plenty of fights out there, but when you've been fighting... as a Liverpool supporter, as you're clearly weighing, when you've been fighting for the title every year, do you want to get out of bed for fighting for anything less? This is it. Will that hunger, that drive, will that still be there?
The standards are different.
The standards are different. He's got to prove himself again. Like he's going to... And if he, clearly he's put changes in place in this fight. New trainer, moved away from McCracken. Now you've got Robert Garcia.
Robert Garcia, yeah. So
how is that going to look? And if that still ends in defeat, what then? He's changed his trainer who's got a different vision, different styles. Clearly he's recognised something wasn't right from his, in his last fight, that something's not going to work. So he needs to try something different. When you try something different and it still doesn't work, it puts you in a rock and a hard place. What do you do? What do you think? Joshua. Let's just go through the worst case scenario. As British boxing fans, Joshua loses by points in the same manner, even worse.
He has to retire.
He has to retire.
He has to retire because Anthony Joshua is not a B-Tech fighter. He's not a fighter that you would put in the sort of rebuilding category. I don't think Anthony Joshua fancies the idea of trying to get back towards the world title, which includes fighting fighters that are ranked 7, 6, 5, 4, and 3. I just don't think he's that type of fighter because he is a prize fighter.
You don't think there's other fights out there that will make him want to jump out of bed for?
Like I said, 3 fights in the last 5 years.
Okay. But,
sorry, in the last 5 fights.
I'm going to mention a few potentials.
Look, you've got to...
Let me give you a few potentials and you can tell me your thoughts. Right, he loses on the 20th of August, right? He reevaluates what's going on and he decides he wants to carry on. Deontay Wilder. What do you make of that fight?
Yeah, look, you know how I feel about
Yeah,
Deontay Wilder
but
versus Anthony
that's a
Joshua,
big
but
money
that's a
fight.
fight that should have happened 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay,
Really.
Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
You got Dillian White.
The rematch with Dillian White's still a big fight. But
Yeah.
what does that do for Anthony Joshua if he beats Dillian White? Listen, let's start from the beginning here. Yeah, okay. The guy got completely outboxed by Oleksandr Usyk. Yeah,
And almost stopped.
I've said this on a number of interviews, whether it's been with Johnny Nelson or whether it's been with Matthew Macklin, 2 guys I like to interview as often as possible because I like how they see things in boxing. You know, they're former boxers. They know a lot of how the game works.
Yeah.
When throughout the build up to this second fight, a lot of people are talking about if Anthony Joshua comes in there and sticks it on Oleksandr Usyk, it's all going to be plain and simple. It's not like that. You watched that first fight with Oleksandr Usyk, right? If anyone looked more capable of a knockout, it was Oleksandr Usyk. Yeah, people will say, well, why did you just look at Usyk's face after that fight and Anthony Joshua fought a different game? That's fine. But watch the fight back and tell me, when did Oleksandr Usyk look hurt once in that fight? He didn't. Yeah, he walked out the ring with a few scrapes and bruises. That's boxing. You know, when you got a guy like Anthony Joshua who's jabbing you in the face, you're bound to get a cut or a scrape. It's going to happen. But I just think a lot of people take away Oleksandr Usyk's performance and they more or less lay on how bad Anthony Joshua was on the night. And I think it's really unfair because pundits are doing it, promoters are doing it. People know who I'm referring to. I've not heard people praise Oleksandr Usyk for that performance he put in against Anthony Joshua. And I think it's really unfair. And I think he's in with a guy that is a better boxer than him, that's got probably the best footwork in the division. The head movement is phenomenal. The way he loads up the 1-2 is brilliant.
And
he's a southpaw. So you can tell Anthony Joshua all you want to try and go in there, do what you did against Dillian White. Well, he was 6-7 years younger when he fought Dillian White, number 1, and they were both at British level. This guy Usyk is Olympic pedigree, is amateur pedigree. Forget his professional pedigree. His amateur pedigree is what's made him the fighter he is today. So you find a completely different animal. Another point I want to make about this fight is pretty simple. Look at what Oleksandr Usyk's had to go through with his country, Ukraine. Are you not trying to tell me that this is a guy that genuinely wants to get in the ring and rip someone's head off? He's watched the build-up to this fight and he's probably thought, wait, hold on a second. Did I win the fight because you was that bad or because I was the better fighter? Because I don't hear the guy getting a lot of credit for his performance against Anthony Joshua. So let's just slow down a second here and let's remember that yes, Anthony Joshua's going to come in and he's going to try and stick it on Oleksandr Usyk. But we've not seen Oleksandr Usyk when it comes to a dogfight. We don't know how he's going to respond to Anthony Joshua. We all thought Tyson Fury was never capable of being a scrapper.
But look, Tyson Fury changed it up. Let's just
Run over.
Yeah. But look, Tyson Fury changed it up. You know, who was it? He's with Ben Davison at the time.
Yeah.
After the first fight.
And he went over to Sugar Hill.
Sugar Hill, Kronk's gym. You know, they know...
They don't fuck about.
They don't fuck about, but you can see there was a clear strategy and a game plan that he went against the kind of... what was expected of him.
Yeah.
He's got pillow fist, he's not strong, he doesn't knock out opponents, but he had to develop that as part of his game plan. It shocked the world. Like that performance that he put in by stopping him in the manner that he did, not only once, but twice. You know, the second and the third fight. But my argument is, why can't Joshua do the same? I know, it's a different level of opposite. I mean, like, we've got... I know I shouldn't... They're like chalk and cheese, you know. We've got Deontay Wilder on one side, who's just got supreme power, and you've got Usyk. You just highlighted his credentials, you know, amateur, great footwork, southpaw, great head movement.
Loads up to 1-2 better than anyone I've seen in that division.
And he didn't look troubled against,
no,
you know...
didn't, not once.
Anthony Joshua, who's got a 80% knockout ratio. It could be more. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head. So he's got this new trainer, which we've already mentioned. They've got to do something differently, something outside the box. I really hope that this is an ugly fight for Joshua. You know, I'm a Joshua fan. I'd like to see him stick it on him, make it ugly, clinches. You know, whilst in clinches,
elbows.
You know, just kind of roughing him up,
punches behind the head. That's what an ugly fight is.
I mentioned this in that fight. It was all at distance. And that suited Usyk to a T. Even though he was a smaller guy, why wasn't Joshua using his weight, to tire his opponent?
Do you know when we talk? Sorry, Ron. Sorry to interrupt you, but do you know when we talk about that first fight, right? And again, I've watched the first fight 3 times, and I remember watching the build up to that fight, and I've obviously watching the build up to his second fight, and everybody constantly says that McCracken got his tactics wrong. McCracken set AJ up wrong, but
I heard that as well.
The relationship between the fighter and the trainer should be the trainer should come out with a game plan, and the fighter should be the one saying, "No, I don't agree with this game plan. I think we need to go in there with this game plan." I mean, it was suicidal to try and make a guy who's not a boxer fight the boxer, because that was always going to go the complete opposite way. It was never going to work. Anthony Joshua, if he tries to box. I don't know. People will say, "Hold on, sorry, Ron."
I'm reflecting on. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
People will say, "Yeah, but he's capable of doing that fight. He done it against Andy Ruiz." Well,
that's what I was just going to say.
Andy Ruiz was a blown-up heavyweight who was still on cloud 9 after winning the heavyweight world title. We're talking about a guy that's been a world champion, for a former undisputed cruiserweight champion. A guy that's won Olympic gold medals, won WBSCs, or however you pronounce it. This is a man that is technically a very good fighter. Is a very skilled fighter. You just watch the guy's footwork. He's he's an artist.
Of course.
And don't underestimate him. The guy knows what's coming for him on Saturday night. He knows that there's going to be a dog looking to bite him. So he's not going to stand there and let the dog bite him. He's going to have to try and bite back. So, I don't know why Usyk, everyone's overlooking Usyk again. Why would you overlook the guy?
I don't think so.
A lot of people, I did a poll on our social media the other day, right? Okay, 85% of that poll voted for Joshua to knock him out. 85%.
I think they're being more hopeful that he does knock him out, being British fans. I think if you
but there's hope and then there's being
hand on
realistic.
heart ask them. I mean, look, you've spoken to people like Johnny Nelson. I'm sure you might have spoken to Adam
Matthew
Smith,
Macklin.
Macklin. What was their response?
Matthew Macklin says the guy lost.
Who's the favourite? Who's the favourite going into that fight? That second fight?
Well,
tell me.
Matthew Macklin.
Favourite?
Well, you watched the interviews. Matthew Macklin's still got Usyk as a favourite. Carl Greaves is another guy that I've interviewed. Carl Greaves is a guy whose opinion I value a lot. He sees the same thing happening.
Yeah.
Johnny Nelson was sort of 50-50. Adam Smith is going to be 50-50 as well. And it's not because he lost because of a bad performance. You look back at our last interview with Matthew Macklin, and the title is AJ lost his focus. And I actually agree with Matthew Macklin on that one. He just, the build up to the whole first fight for Andy Ruiz, he was talking about Wilder and he was talking about Fury. And then, the fight with Oleksandr Usyk, the Fury fight, had fell through a few months before that. And I agree with Matthew Macklin. I think the guy loses focus easily. I think he's easily distracted. But I want him to win on Saturday night. Because I know what I want. I want to see Fury fight Anthony Joshua. I want to see that fight more than anything. But then I look at what's in front of him. And I look at the fact that Oleksandr Usyk is a phenomenal fighter. He's an artist.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How does Joshua win?
He's got to go in and he's got to be ugly.
He's got to be ugly. I agree.
He's got to be a dirty fighter.
He can't fight Usyk's fight.
He has to take the fight to Oleksandr Usyk. He cannot afford to sit back. The second Usyk gets him on that back foot, it favours Usyk.
There's been question marks over Anthony Joshua's gas tank, basically.
Yeah.
He gasses out.
I thought you gassed in the last fight, but I don't think there's an issue.
I mean,
with
that
gas
happened
tank.
in the Klitschko fight.
Yeah.
There was a period, middle round, that he gave up. And at that point, I had Klitschko winning if it went to the full round. We've relied on his power to get him out of trouble there. And he's done that. The only fight that he hasn't relied on his power to get him out, and that's against Andy Ruiz, the rematch, where he just used his boxing IQ and he did it to a T.
You never teach an old dog new tricks. It's very rare that it pays off in boxing. It's paid off with Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Because Tyson Fury is just the best I've seen since Lennox Lewis. Muhammad Ali, in my opinion. He's not a boxer. He's a knockout artist. And that's what the heavyweight division is all about. It's very rare that you get skillful, technical heavyweights. You've got two right now.
He's an Olympic gold medalist.
He's an Olympic gold medalist, yeah, but come on, he's not an out-and-out boxer. Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong. Credit to him for wanting to sort of adapt to his game. I think it's a good thing, but not for this fight. He has to go in there and he's got to make it ugly. He's got to, you know what? I'll get a bit of stick for saying this, but It wasn't a bad shout, Tyson Fury saying, I'll train you to fight Oleksandr Usyk. He should have let him. Because this fight is all about adapting. Usyk's not going to be expected the same fight, so he has to adapt his ways, right? Anthony Joshua cannot go in there thinking, I'll try and box this guy and win over a points decision. He has to adapt. We all saw what Tyson Fury was like when he adapted against Deontay Wilder. And it was just basic things he was doing, leaning up against him on the ropes, clinching him, hitting him in the back of the head, elbows to the body. These little things, Ron, they seem like little things, but they're what gasses these fighters out.
Yeah.
So I actually would have been all for letting Tyson Fury train him. Lovely gesture, by the way.
Bit like Rocky and Apollo Creed.
There you go. Why'd you always bring Rocky moves into it?
I'm sorry.
When are we having that Rocky marathon, by the way?
If we're going to do it soon, man.
Yes, 100%. Right, we're talking about AJ. What's the game plan with Oleksandr Usyk? Because Oleksandr Usyk, in my opinion, is capable of beating him on the front foot and on the back foot as well.
Well, he's going to do what he did in the last fight, but better. Because this is going to be a more determined Anthony Joshua who's got a point to prove, and he's going to do it a lot better this time. He's going to be a lot more kind of smart about, okay, he's going to try to put it on me. Clearly, that's the game plan.
Yeah.
And I would, in the next few weeks, fight week, obviously, I'd listen to what Robert Garcia's saying in interviews. Kind of just might give something away, what they've been working on. That's something I would be keen on. But Usyk won that comfortably. Do you know what I mean? If it was a very, narrow win, then we'd be like, oh, God. So Usyk's going to do his basics really well, which he did. And he's done, he does it better than anyone in the business. Mm-hmm. The footwork, the movement, the roll, the head movement as well. So he's just going to make sure.
The footwork's
phenomenal, absolutely. And the good thing is he's, from this fight, he's going to come heavier than he was in the previous. So he's
250 pounds, he's saying.
Wow. So what was he in? Do you remember what he was in the first fight? That would be interesting to see. Now, how would that negatively impact Usyk as well? Because obviously, being bigger, it will slow you down. You've got to you're carrying more weight here. You're going to get. Is that going to have an impact on your stamina throughout the fight? Mm-hmm. That's going to be obstacles that Usyk's not faced any time in his career before. Even. I remember that fight, the first fight, Usyk looked tiny compared to Joshua. Yeah? I mean,
it was a cruiserweight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he bulked up. But he bulked up for that, and he still looked tiny. So this second fight, he looks massive.
This second fight, with it, I think he's doing it smart, coming in at 250 pounds, because that weight leaning on you.
But how will he deal with it? I'm sure he's. I don't know. Do you know anything about his sparring partners? Who has he got? Usyk in his.
I don't. Amir Khan's been in and around. Look, you got to remember, this is a man that's unfortunately seen what's happened to his country.
Yeah.
That's. I don't care. Look, these are proud Ukrainians. Him, the Klitschko, Shevchenko. Lomachenko. These guys are proud Ukrainians. You watch what's been going on with Ukraine over the last few months. So,
and is he making it free to air as well?
Yes,
for Ukraine? That's amazing.
Hats off to the guy, but you have to ask yourself mentally where the guy's head is at right now.
Do you think that might be one of his downfalls? That there's a lot going on, things that we can't comprehend.
That's one of them. Someone once said to me, right? I used to play football with this guy, and he once said to me that AJ reminds you of Thierry Henry. Okay. When he gets the chance to finish it, he will finish it. Your football, Thierry Henry was one of the best finishers of all time. Sure. And I agree with that. Anthony Joshua, when he needs to finish an opponent, will finish an opponent.
Okay.
He is one of the best finishers in that division right now. So it depends what Oleksandr Usyk allows Anthony Joshua to do in this fight. If Oleksandr Usyk allows Anthony Joshua to control the tempo of this fight, that's a big no-no in my opinion.
Does Usyk keep it long? Keep the distance? Keep that work off that jab and that movement side to side?
The question, how does AJ close that distance? Trying to close the distance on the fighter takes its toll as well. You mentioned about his gas tank and people saying that it's not been kind of the same since Klitschko. You got a point there, but I don't know, man.
And you've got issues of trying to get in, and you're going to get land. You're going to
you're going to leave
punches.
yourself open. Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to jump straight into it, right? When the rematch was announced, I said it then. I've said it for the last few months, and I'm saying it on Fight Week, and I'll say it on Fight Night as well. I believe Oleksandr Usyk is going to knock Anthony Joshua out in this fight.
You think knockout?
I think Oleksandr Usyk is going to knock him out because he's got his number.
Okay. What round are you predicting?
I think he's going to do it in round 9.
Mid to late 9.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is what I'm anticipating that you're thinking is that Joshua's going to get desperate.
Yep.
He's going to be chasing the fight. He's
Yep.
behind on the scorecards.
Yep.
Apparently, that's what he wasn't told that last time.
Have you been like living in my mind something already? Because everything you're saying is right now is what I've been thinking. This is all I think Joshua's going to get desperate.
You think he's going to get desperate?
Yes.
He's going to reach. He's going to fall short a few times. And it's going to, is it going to be a left hook or right hook? Or
it's going to be exactly what was going on down at the final round in the first fight. And Usyk had another 10 seconds in that round, he would have knocked Joshua out.
You think it's going to be a knockout, or is it going to be the ref's going to
No, Joshua's not getting up.
You think he's going to get flattened?
No, I think he's going to get flattened.
If I was to predict a Usyk knockout, I think it would be a stop by...
You think the referee stops it?
I think the referee stops it, thinking that this guy's taken far too many. He's not responding back.
No.
But that's not my prediction.
Do you know what? I think this build-up, I think Oleksandr Usyk's looked at some of these interviews with the likes of Eddie Hearn, and he's constantly heard how people have said just how Joshua was not good on the night and how bad of a performance he put in. He knows these guys have not really given me the recognition I deserve for that performance, because that was a phenomenal boxing masterclass. That annoys me as well, because I've said it at the start of this podcast, and I'll say it again. I've said it the last few months. He does not get the credit he deserves for that performance.
Okay.
And I just think that, we know Josh was a wounded animal. This guy, and I don't mean any disrespect by this, as seeing his country being torn apart. I think that's going to be the motivation that spurs him on. He knows he's got a whole nation behind him. He is the only hope in that nation right now. He's the only pride and joy that country's got right now. These things may not play a part in it, but you know what? These Eastern Europeans, man, they're proud men. We can say about Joshua having a nation behind him, but I think there's more support in the UK for Tyson Fury now than there is Anthony Joshua. This guy's got a whole country behind him.
Yeah.
They know, the Ukrainians know they've not got much to look forward to for however long, and I hope the situation in Ukraine gets sorted at some point. I really do.
He stepped away from his rematch to focus on...
And this guy's going in there thinking, my country's going through shit right now. I have to put a smile back on their face. And the only way I do that is if I leave Saudi Arabia with these belts.
And become...
And still be the unified heavyweight champion and take the Ring Magazine belt back to Ukraine as well.
Wow. And then Fury...
well, why not? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I don't know. But let's not...
we won't go there.
But at the end of the day, right, I'm just saying that this fight is... I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But I can't see... I always knew Joshua was going to beat Andy Ruiz. Always knew he was going to beat Andy Ruiz. Prior to the build-up to the second fight, I said Andy Ruiz is going to beat him. Then 2 weeks before the fight, I seen a clip of Andy Ruiz, and I looked at the guy's shape and I thought, there's no chance he's beating him. This time, I am not getting it wrong. I guarantee you, Oleksandr Usyk will stop Anthony Joshua this time. And I think after that, Anthony Joshua will walk away from the sport.
Can I offer you my opinion, what I think is going to go down? I think...
What you're on the pole for?
Usyk wins by points.
Okay.
I don't know, this is head and heart, isn't it? When you have those moments thinking, actually, you had a good point there. But if he was to get stopped, I think it's going to be a referee that's going to just wave it off and say, right, he's had enough.
Do you know what another good thing about this fight is we've not seen Usyk take a serious punch yet. How do we not know? We've not seen that chin tested yet. We saw Chisora,
there needs to be a chin test. Yeah.
We saw Chisora stick it on him for a few rounds, and he looked like he handled
a lot better against Usyk than...
That's the game plan that Joshua's got to follow.
Yep.
Those first 4 rounds have to be ugly for Usyk.
Yep.
Because I believe the longer the fight goes on, the more it favours Usyk, because for me, he's got the better of boxing pedigree, and he's got the better boxing brain and the better boxing IQ. Joshua's got to try and do what Chisora did, but only he's got to knock him out this time.
And look, no offence to Chisora, but AJ's got a better set of tools to do that.
No,
perform that game plan that Chisora had. Chisora obviously faded out as the fight went on, but he covered himself with a lot of respect. People didn't say, oh my God, he just got absolutely annihilated in that fight. No, he gave a really good account of himself.
Let's talk a bit about some of the politics in this fight and the fact that it is on Sky Sports
is it
box
the
office.
zone?
Yeah.
Is it not on the zone?
Not in the UK, but it is on Sky Sports.
I mean, the zone contract starts after this fight, right?
Sky Sports got the fight in the end. We saw a bit of back and forth between Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports. Obviously, they parted ways as of last year. They had a great relationship, but the fight has landed on Sky Sports. according to many people from the Sky Sports team, the Saudis wanted it to be on Sky Sports. It is going to be a box office event, you know. I think Sky Sports should have every right to feel a bit let down because they promoted Anthony Joshua's career since the beginning, since he turned pro. And I'm glad they're getting this fight because, you know, they're on a new adventure and they're on a new path right now.
With Boxer, right?
With Boxer. And I think, you know, you look at February, you know, Williams Eubank, Khan Brook, Taylor Catwell, you know, they're giving us the undisputed clash with Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall.
To look forward. Is that in September, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep, and then hopefully we're going to get Taylor Catwell too. You know, so I'm glad they've got the fight because Johnny Nelson said something in an interview with Eiffel TV. Shout out to Eiffel TV. He goes, "Are you going to walk into the pub and see DAZN on the TV? You're not, are you? Come on, like, I mean,
well, they're quite early.
Let's say we sat down with just casual boxing fans. You know, I like to think me and you are beyond the casual level. Let's say you said to a casual fan, "Oh, the fight's on DAZN," and then he'd say to you, "Yeah, what channel number is that? Or where can I get it?" Has DAZN really taken off since? I don't think it's been as successful.
It's a different platform, isn't it? You know, it's kind of keeping up with the media trend at the moment. That these new channels are coming in and kind of wanting a piece of the pie or taking over the pie in some respects. And this is where I've got to give credit to kind of really in its infancy, Boxer. You know, they've only been around for 1 or 2 years, and the fighters that they've signed up, it's exciting. You know, I really enjoy those shows. I mean, the one I really fear for is Queensberry. You know, just the shows that they put on. I just don't think they're at the same level as Boxer or Matchroom, as we, or DAZN or whatever you want to call it. So I feel for out of all the boxing promotion companies, Queensberry is the one I feel.
They took a lot of stick for the undercard with Fury versus White.
And White. That
wasn't the undercard.
You know what? I would have been disappointed as a fan, thinking, yes, of course, I want to see this heavyweight chat, for the WBC. But what else was there to watch on that undercard? It didn't really excite me.
Nonetheless, Sky Sports have got the fight. It is on, and I actually prefer that because I like listening to Adam Smith's commentary. I think the way he sells the fights. As the fighters are making their ring walk entrance, I think he gets.
He's got that iconic voice, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got that radio voice, and he's got that little smile that he likes to do when the broadcast is on. As soon as it comes, he's like, "Hello." Welcome to another fascinating night of Sky Sports Boxing. It's the big one here. And you know what I'm trying to say. But I think, one thing a lot of people don't realise is commentary. Whoever's on commentary makes a huge difference for fight night. And I listen to DAZN's commentary. Andy Lee features on it a lot. I think he's a decent commentator.
Who's your favourite commentator? As we're talking about
it's Adam Smith. It's Adam Smith all day long.
You're saying that.
It's Adam Smith all day long.
Who's your favourite boxing analyst? People who analyse the fights and.
I like Tony Bellew a lot.
And he's good.
I like Tony Bellew. I like listening to Natasha Jonas. Not because of the Scouse accent. I think she's very good with
sense,
her. I like listening to her. I like listening to Carl Froch. Did you know he fought in front of 80,000 fans?
No, I did not.
But yeah. But I think Anthony Joshua overall should have dedicated the rest of his career to Sky Sports because they played a massive part in where he is today. Eddie Hearn, I don't think he was happy with having to work with Sky Sports again. It's as Adam Smith said in a couple of interviews that Eddie's really looking forward to working with us again, sarcastically. So it's good that the fight's gone to Sky Sports. For the last sort of 6-7 years, Froch Groves, 1 and 2, Khan versus Brook, Joshua White, Joshua Reed 1 and 2, Fury Klitschko, all these big blockbuster fights have been on Sky Sports. Would you have felt comfortable listening to a Joshua fight on DAZN with different comedy? I wouldn't have.
Look, I mean, it's all going to end someday, isn't it? Their relationship with Sky Sports, that's coming. That's it. This is Joshua's moving on from here. Him and his team have made that decision. His promoter's been obviously the main reason behind that. But he's got a lot riding on this fight. This could be the make or break of him. He wins this fight, DAZN is cashing in. They're going to be making a lot of money on the back of this.
There's one thing I forgot to mention.
Sky Sports wins regardless.
DAZN were very quiet for the first part of this year, but you look what they've got on for the next 3 months. They've got this fight on Saturday night, Joshua Usyk 2. They've got September.
Golovkin.
Canelo 3.
Yeah.
And in October, Ben Eubank. 3 fights, 3 different countries, 3 massive fights. So
3 pay-per-views as well.
So they still got that bit of power in delivering the big fights. They'll never lose that power because we all know what Eddie Hearn brings to the game. He knows how to put on these big fights. But having said that, seeing as we are staying on the whole broadcast discussion, I've got to give hats off to Sky Sports. They gave us the one fight that we called out for years, which is Khan versus Brook. You know, Ben Shalom gets a lot of stick, but you had the likes of Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn trying to make Khan versus Brook for years. This guy had been on the scene for 5 minutes and he made it. So it says a lot about Ben Shalom. The only thing I worry about for Sky Sports is, and I know when they parted ways with Eddie Hearn, they said that the game plan would be not to have a face of their platform. With Sky Sports, while Matchroom was with Sky Sports, has always had Anthony Joshua. They said they want to focus on having more than one face. But the broadcasting thing, in my opinion, doesn't work like that. Every main platform, boxing platform in the world has got a face. Queensbury and Top Rank hits Tyson Fury. Matchroom have probably got 3 or 4 fighters that could be the face. You got Canelo, you got Joshua, PBC, Errol Spence. Do you know what I mean? Every platform's got a face. So I think this is where Sky Sports need. I mean, I know they've signed Joseph Parker. They've signed a few faces, but
Ben Whittaker, is he?
Ben Whittaker's there, but he's the guy for the future.
This is the different strategy they've gone about. They've not used a tried and trusted model of Queensbury, and they've got the up and coming that are going to.
They've got most of the female Olympians,
and they've got that female side of things sorted out as well.
Yeah.
Katie Taylor has been fantastic. No, sorry,
she's with Dazn, but
who am I thinking about? Is that Manda? No.
Oh no, you're thinking about Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall working with them.
You know what I mean? That's 2 potential quotes in there.
You've got that undisputed clash coming up soon as well, but that's
look at their roster. They're young, hungry fighters. You know, someone like Adam Azim.
The Azim brothers,
2-3 years down the line, you know, can we see Adam Azim fighting for a world title? Possibly. Why not? You know.
Yeah, but I mean, I know like they've got to focus on the future, but the present still offers so much. You know, I believe Terence Crawford is still a free agent. There's an opening right there, but you know, I was there for the.
Does that fit in with their?
Well, why not,
with
Ron?
Their
I was there for Fight Week in Manchester for Khan Brook, and obviously Crawford come with Amir Khan because he worked with Bomac, who trains Terence Crawford. Man, Terence Crawford got a lot of attention from the public because he's a big name in the UK. Now you imagine announcing that, we've got Terence Crawford signed with Sky Sports.
How long is his contract? Has he finished his
He's
contract?
finished with Top right now.
But what's happened? Has that fight been announced yet with
Errol Spence? No, but I am hearing we are in the final stages of that fight. But
I don't believe it until I see them both in the ring together.
Who have you got as the number one
for
platform right now?
The Zone.
You still have the Zone.
Yeah.
I say the Zone.
Those 3 pay-per-views that you've mentioned.
Yeah, that's the game changer.
People like Canelo. He's a cash cow. I've said that
I agree.
all along with you know, about him and the numbers it brings. They're doing something completely different. Boxers are doing something completely different. Queensbury's doing something in their own way. You know, you've got the American broadcasts as well. They're doing something different.
I think those 3 fights that they're putting on, the 3 pay-per-views, have put them back to number 1 because before that I had Sky Sports as number 1. But I think Sky Sports have had a phenomenal year. Yeah. I think February was brilliant for them. They get a bit of slack because of their undercards, but you don't really... You sort of look at the build-up for the shows that they put on. Taylor versus Cattrall, everyone's going to have their eye on that rematch because of the controversy that surrounded the first fight. It's interesting times, man. I do think like these platforms, it would benefit them so much more to work together. It just doesn't want to happen. Too much stubbornness in the game, man. Honestly, way too much stubbornness.
As a boxing fan, I'd like to see in my lifetime those fights, those deep dream. You know, I consider them as fantasy fights until I see them actually in the ring together. You know, the best in the divisions, in their respective divisions. So, you know, in the lightweight division, we've got that's one of the best divisions out there. Why are they not fighting each other? Why are they fighting these randomly picked names? You know, with not real backstories to them. You know, are we going to get a Gervonta Davis fighting a Ryan Garcia?
Ryan Garcia. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is what really riles me up. Yes, we've got all these platforms, all these kind of. yes, you hit the nail on its head. Why can't they just work together? You know, they're all in there to make money. Yes, they
I've
all
had the
want to
answers wanted to give them to you. Just as yourself, I want to see these big fights, but they don't seem as if they're happening anytime soon. But I'm hearing potential good things about Tank and Garcia. I'm hearing that it's going in the right direction. I'm hoping that Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather's, you know, are not looking at.
You've got Devin Haney kind of doing the rematch
with George Kambosos.
Kambosos, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
What's happening with Lomachenko?
Where is he? You know what, Ron? We always somehow seem to come back to this lightweight division.
Yeah, but all right, that's
no. There's no harm in it. We want to see the big fights. We want to see these guys.
But yeah, you mentioned that thing about these platforms. You know, that's my biggest thing that riles me up. Is like, A, I'm waiting far too long between fights. Secondly, the best fighting are not fighting the best. This is where UFC wins.
This is what you got. One
but then
face,
you got one thing with UFC
one name.
is the fighters are not getting paid enough. So it's
but we're still getting our fix.
Yeah, you're getting your fix. We don't care. We're just like, hey, we're seeing the two best fighters in that division.
Let's go on to fight night now, because we're gonna have to bring Pod 57 to an end.
Go for it.
I'm still sticking by my prediction. I'm gonna go for Usyk knockout in round 9.
And you think it's gonna be floors him, and he
him.
doesn't get up, and does he try to get up, and he gets counted out? Is it a
doesn't get up?
Doesn't get up.
Does not get up. I think, as you said, he's going to become desperate. He's going to be behind on the scorecards. He leaves himself too open, and because of Usyk's boxing IQ and his skills,
he's just going to time
and his intelligence, he's going to time a beautiful shot on the button. Good night, Joshua. That's what I see happening.
It will take a hell of a punch to drop Joshua, considering that Usyk's a smaller guy.
Give me a prediction.
I stand by Usyk winning 1.5 points. A clear points victory. But if it was a knockdown, I guess I'm still going for Usyk to win. But if it was a knockdown, I think the referee waves it off, or a towel gets thrown in. It just gets, he might get to his feet. Like I'm thinking of the Ruiz fight. That clearly he wasn't in the right.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, to as much as he kind of protested, but I think that's what happens. Either he wins by points, a clear point, and if there is a stoppage, I think it might happen late in the fight and this time, But I'm going to stick by points win.
It's fight week. It is the big rematch. It is arguably Anthony Joshua's biggest fight of his career yet. Can Anthony Joshua right the wrong? Can he become a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world? Or does Oleksandr Usyk leave Saudi Arabia with his belt, including the Ring Magazine title? And does he go back to Ukraine and put a smile on the Ukrainians' face? Because given what they've been through, that again, for me, is going to be the motivation that he needs. Guys, give us your thoughts in the comment section. Let us know what goes down on Saturday night in Saudi Arabia between Anthony Joshua and Oleksandr Usyk. Make sure you check out our social media posts involving the fight between these two. It's a massive fight. It's arguably the biggest fight of the year, and it's going to be a fight to remember. Thank you so much for watching our podcast. Ron, thank you for jumping on as always.
It's always been a pleasure.
That's what the face of Lights Out does, don't you? You are Lights Out.
I am Lights Out.
I'll let James Toney know that's what you think. Guys, once again, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell for future Lights Out notifications. Want to listen to this podcast in any of the audio platforms? Links are below in the description. Thank you for listening to podcast 57 of the Lights Out Boxing podcast.